fear. Shake your ass, come over here, now scream.
I would put my neck on the line and say, you know, Robbie is the best live performer in the world. He's the best live performer I've ever seen. And when you fill Nebworth 3 nights in a row, it's like over 400,000, nearly 500,000 people rocking up to a field to watch you play. He's got to have something special.
Everybody knows at least, you know, one of his songs, or at least 2 of the songs. Everybody knows them, and it's so unmistakable, and there always seems to be at least one song that, you know, that everybody can actually like of Robbie Williams. He just has this universal appeal.
Angels will always be his song. The same as like New York, New York is Frank Sinatra's song, although he's got many. This Charming Man is Morrissey's song. You know, that will always follow him, and I think that is his greatest achievement.
Robbie has got this universal appeal, backed up by his incredibly successful record sales, where people will listen to his music from all ages. And so they are, by definition, going to be the songs that are put on at weddings and family reunions and stuff like that, because everyone from all age groups likes them, and they're popular and accessible to all types.
It's the whole package. You can't just go out there and sing it. You can't just go out there and look like him. You've got to sing as near as damn it as him, do all the grand gestures, do the moves. There's a difference between a lookalike and a tribute, so I bring the essence of Robbie alive and bring the whole ambience of Robbie Williams live when I do the shows.
He was born in a venue, basically, isn't he? So it's there for him, and it's around him all the time, so he's bound to take that on, or either become introverted or extroverted, and I imagine he's a bit of both, really.
His dad was a comedian and a singer, and he'd travel around the holiday camps and the clubs of the north, and often take Robbie with me. In fact, Robbie's always said that his dad gave him good microphone technique. He learned how to hold the mic at an early age. So I think on the whole, really quite a happy childhood.
I mean, I think there are 2 things about Robbie. He had a broken family, his parents split up from an early age, and that affects anybody. And they go out wanting to be the centre of attention, to be the big performer, to put on this big cheeky extrovert front to cover up their insecurities. But added to that, of course, his mum was a pub landlord, but his dad is a performer and out doing the clubs as well. So obviously one of his traits in the blood, the Robbie Williams blood, is kind of all about being out there in front of a crowd and being the entertainer.
He actually went for an audition that his mum, I don't know how pushy his mum is, but his mum made him go to the audition, because the story is that he actually got, the same day, in 1990, he got 2 letters, and one was from the school saying he'd failed every single GCSE that he'd taken, and the other one was from Nigel Martin Smith saying he'd passed the audition, he'd gotten to take that.
The mad thing for Rob is that he was only 15 years old, and when his friends were going down the youth club, he was in the back of a transit van with the other 4, being, you know, bunged out into gay clubs, doing all sorts of performances of their early material, and he lost a lot of his childhood. But he was only 15 when he started, just turning 16, but I mean, either way, it's still a young age to be out there doing that kind of thing. And he was the baby of the band, and possibly not looked after as, you know, he would have been if he'd just been living his proper childhood amongst his friends and his family.
Obviously he liked being successful, having lots of ladies running after him and screaming for him. I think he did enjoy being on stage. I think he didn't enjoy being packaged, because Take That were a very packaged band. They couldn't do a lot of things. They couldn't be seen drunk, they couldn't be seen smoking, you know, and these were things that young Robbie, well, you know, he wanted to do. He wanted to get drunk, he wanted to smoke, and in the music industry, if anybody tells you otherwise, they're lying. There are drugs, and unfortunately Robbie was one of those people. He did enjoy taking the drugs, he did enjoy drinking the alcohol, he did enjoy the ladies, and I think in the end of the day it all got too much for him, and he realised that he as a person was not happy with the way that he was being packaged as Take That. He was always this kind of comedian who's quite sarcastic, and the rest of the guys weren't really like that. They all seemed to be quite happy to be packaged. So I think it was not exactly surprising that Robbie was the first one to break away from Take That and to actually launch his own solo career.
1995, the year that he left Take That, was quite a significant year for all kinds of things. Suddenly there was this explosion, the Britpop explosion, and he the first thing he did upon leaving Take That was to go to the Glastonbury Festival and hang out with Liam and Noel of Oasis backstage.
I think he was quite lost at first. I mean, there's the famous 1995 when he was at Glastonbury, and he spent the whole time hanging out with Oasis and completely off his head backstage, and loads of photographs of him looking like he's having the time of his life. I think probably it's very hard to go back from that to being the sort of the guy in the second row of the boy band doing the dance steps. So the time had come for him to leave the band, I'd imagine. As regards to the solo career, it was very hit and miss at first. In the first thing he recorded was a cover of Freedom by George Michael, obviously making a big point there. And he got to number 2, but it wasn't the huge kind of number 1 that he'd hoped for.
To sum Robbie up and that first release, if I go back to a time when I went to interview them up in Manchester, and there was this thing, they were all in this room and they had sackfuls of mail everywhere, and obviously they were called in once a week by Nigel to open up the mail, and they would sit there going through all the dolls and all the little teddy bears that had been thrown at them, bombarded, and all the letters, and you could just smell the perfume as well because all the fans were like, you know, squirting it, horrible, and they'd open up all the mail, and that was like Howard, Gary, Mark and Jason would be doing that. The day I was up there, Robbie would have nothing to do with any of that stuff, and he was in the other corner of the room with his headphones on, and I went over and said, Rob, what are you listening to? Thinking it was probably like something like, I don't know, New Kids or something else that was around at the time, and he was listening to like really heavy Cypress Hill, you know, and he was like, what, 16 going on 17, didn't want anything to do with them, listening to Cypress Hill really summed him up. This little boy inside, desperate to get out, almost hated this whole clean-cut boy band thing right from the word go. So then to rock out something like Freedom and change the sound was exactly where he wanted to be. He must have just loved it, couldn't wait to be doing that and not some clean-cut boy band hit again.
It's quite a sort of a tongue-in-cheek song for Robbie to have chosen. It's quite sort of dancey, it's quite an uplifting song. It's not 100 miles away from the kind of sound that Take That had in any case, but it was a little bit spikier. Yeah, he made it a little bit rockier rather than poppier. So it was a sound that was still going to appeal to the Take That fans, you know, because after all, this was Robbie from Take That. But also, it had that word freedom. It was all about being free from something, and I think for Robbie, you know, he felt that he was free from the chains of being in a boy band.
It was quite a tough period for Rob after Freedom 90, and then I think he went a bit off the rails, and there were all the allegations of, you know, drugs he was doing, and I think probably spent a bit of time in rehab, which meant spending a bit of time away from Anna Friel, who I think was his girlfriend at the time, and made it quite tough. So that relationship went. And I think his confidence in himself went, because I think he probably was still trying to come to terms with what had happened in Take That and embark on this big solo career, and having been nailed by drugs and booze and whatever else he was doing at the time, and just depressing him so much so that he was just finding it hard to get on with his life.
It was very negative. He was known for stumbling out of parties, being drunk a lot, being a bit overweight. Just known for being somebody who'd completely lost the plot, I think, really. And yeah, interviews, he did an awful lot to slag off Gary Barlow particularly. He got involved in the feud with Oasis, of course. There was a big feud with Noel Gallagher and Liam Gallagher that went back and forth for a year or two. Yeah, he seemed like somebody who was trying to pick a fight because he didn't know what he wanted to do with himself.
All throughout the promotional period of Life Through a Lens, which was his debut album, I think he's still having problems shaking off that boy band image. I mean, he was hanging around with Oasis and the Gallagher brothers. He was being photographed being quite drunk and, you know, with all his tattoos and everything. And he was being photographed at rock concerts and things and wearing T-shirts of bands that you wouldn't think of somebody in a boy band as even liking.
I was very, very surprised. I thought it was a really good album, great songs. And they weren't what you expected at all. You know, they were really well thought out, and I think at that point, again with Freedom, he was making a statement. I think that album was very much making a statement. I don't think it was so much geared towards being massively successful at that point.
It can be regarded as one of his most important albums because being his first, and there was always going to be a lot of scrutiny on to what he was going to do after he'd left Take That. And it's very important that from the word go he distanced himself from what he'd been doing with Take That and showed more of his true colours and character throughout, consistently throughout making that record.
I think when Lazy Days came out, it was still very much Robbie from Take That, so he still had that Take That baggage, if you like, attached to him. But I think he was starting slowly to get other fans in, people who were hearing songs and saying, oh, well, actually, they're not bad songs, you know, they're quite nice. But, you know, they didn't have the impact of some of the other songs that he's done.
Not only are they not good enough, but they're probably not written in the same mould. Like Old Before I Die was meant to be a bit of a sing-along with, you know, the chorus very simple and memorable and with high sustained notes that everyone can sort of sing along with.
It was kind of a shock for all his fans because they expected him to do the pop genre kind of thing, but it was heading towards a different kind of a vocal in the style of Liam Gallagher, kind of an indie kind of vibe, but yeah, it's sort of like, it sort of kick-started his career, but obviously that wasn't the song that made his name to the man that we know of him today.
So just when he needed it, Rob gets a massive turnaround, big turnaround year. He had Lazy Days and South of the Border, Rubbish, Flop, Pants singles, and then teams up with Guy Chambers, Angels. Brilliant tune. It matured Robbie from being a boy, became a man in that video with the long coat, the scarf, the big aerial shots, black and white. He looked great, sounded great, beautiful lyrics. They touched millions of hearts all around the world, and musically it was brilliant with Guy Chambers. So that was it. Suddenly Angels, brand new Robbie, brand new record deal.
Guy Chambers and Robbie wasn't initially the most obvious combination to put together, but they did between them. I mean, you have to suspect that Guy Chambers did most of the songwriting initially because he was the person who was used to doing it, but they did produce a stream of singles. Angels was one, obviously, Millennium they brought up between them, and they just seemed to have these sort of 5 or 6 great singles that everyone went to #1 or close to it.
I think Guy's contribution to Angels was massive. I mean, he co-wrote it with Robbie. I don't know which percentage or which words he wrote and which ones Robbie wrote, but certainly without Guy in the mix there, it wouldn't have been the massive hit that it was eventually.
The song's a brilliant composition by the two of them, Chambers and Williams, and it's just a really, really well-written power ballad that seems to touch the heart of people of all ages and walks of life, which is exactly what you want the power ballad to do.
Down the waterfall, wherever it may take me, I know that love won't break me.
I think at this point, all the clutter of Take That and all the clutter of his struggle with addictions and the Noel and Liam thing, that was all behind him. So this was his first attempt to come forward, and he did so all guns blazing. But yeah, I mean, at that point, probably the record company changed their opinion of him. They heard the songs and got a lot more behind him.
He started appealing to a much broader audience, didn't he? It wasn't just the screaming teenage fans from Take That who were then suddenly becoming early 20-something young women. It was also their mums really getting into the whole Robbie thing. And guys as well, that suddenly found that actually being a fan of Robbie was actually quite credible. So Angels did so much for me, crossed so many boundaries with that one song.
It just fulfills, it checks all the boxes of how these songs should work. Like it starts off with just a quiet vocal and piano intro, gradually builds up, drums come in, it still stays steady, but throughout Robbie's vocal is very assured, and by the end it's really, really built up to full band coming in with strings and this big lavish arrangement, and his voice is soaring through all of it. Lyrics about angels, and it's very easy to remember as well for people. The lyrics and the melody are quite simple.
Down the waterfall, wherever it may take me, I know that love won't break me.
I think Angels really was the first song that Robbie did prove his vocal abilities. You could hear he wasn't just a voice that was melded in with 4 other guys, that was put through some effects, that was you know, all packaged up and polished and everything. This was somebody who could actually sing. You know, he's got a beautiful voice, Robbie Williams. You cannot knock it. He is not someone who is always hitting wrong notes. He's not somebody who needs sleek production to make his voice sound good. He already has it, and Angels prove that. When I do Angels, the audience is just right there, and it's great as well, because if you've got a sore throat at the end of a show, and even Robbie's done it himself, he only does the verses and lets everybody else do the chorus, so you can have a rest. Everybody wants to sing it and raises the roof. And it's got to be the final song at the end of the night, really. It's got to be the icing on the cake right at the end of the show, where you've got everybody in the palmy round, you do Angels, and it's time to say goodnight, God bless. You leave them on that high.
There was a time in the late 90s when that song was like the national anthem, wasn't it, or like a school hymn, and every single poll that happened for the best song ever, or was you played at your funeral, Angels, it seemed compulsory. In the way it used to be in the 70s, compulsory for Bohemian Rhapsody to win everything. Suddenly Angels had to win every single poll. And that's the thing when Robbie Williams went from being this kind of mildly diverting ex-boy band member, being a middling pop star, to being this complete phenomenon, this complete superstar.
If you were going to make a party CD in 20 years' time, the greatest party songs ever, you would probably put Let Me Entertain You on it. And you'd probably put it as track 1.
Well, it's gone and you haven't seen. There's nothing left for you to fear. Shake your ass, come over here, now scream.
And the guitar and the piano kicks in right at the intro, it grabs you, especially when the chorus kicks in. It's the electricity of the song, you want to bounce with it and go with it, and it really just brings everybody alive. And it's a great classic opener.
It was quite a rocky song, and obviously he's got all his Kiss makeup on in the video as well. And it's just an unexpected song, and it just sounds so completely different from anything else that he's done and anything that you're expecting him to do. But I think that's part of its appeal, because it has this very different sound. So of course it's appealing to a different market as well. And I think really that he was starting to get a bit worried, you know, about, well, I don't really want to be appealing to everyone's mums. Let's put something out which is going to, you know, maybe appeal to younger generation.
To an extent, he wants to create that effect that that he is, you know, kind of old school rock and roll, and that this is a big, you know, party anthem that's going to be his signature tune for years to come. But it's actually not that similar at all to a sort of typical glam rock tune, in that it's not based in heavy distorted guitar riffs. It actually has a piano riff, which is its main theme, which is actually sort of more like an early 90s dance, you know, commercial dance sort of track, which just goes like this.
I've seen like 5-year-old kids singing that and bouncing up and down, and I've also seen you know, people stripping to that song, should we say. You know, it's one of those songs, it's basically, I am going to entertain you.
It's supposed to be the song that he's going to open live at Nebworth with, and it's a song that really people identify with Robbie as the consummate entertainer.
You go and see one of his concerts and you'll be overwhelmed. The excitement and the buzziness. He brings a lot more to the show than most people do. He said himself in an interview, you know, because he does all these grand gestures and dance moves and the part with the audience where you get bands just playing guitar, which is great, but he's his own unique package, you see. So you go there not only to listen to great music, but you're going to get there on the night to be entertained first class as well.
He is a fantastic entertainer, and that is really the core of why people love him, I think. All the mess and all the self-loathing and all the egotistical stuff, and just wipe that away. The reason why people love Robbie is because he's an entertainer. He is a great live performer, and it's another example of a great pop song, I think.
It was like capturing the essence of Robbie, which is this very sort of cheeky chappy, and putting it into songs. And you didn't really hear that full essence come out until the second album.
Well, first of all, I think the title of the album, I've Been Expecting You, tells us a lot about Robbie. He knows all along that he's going to make it. He's got this belief that he's going to do it. It's only you, the other people, that doubt him. Well, now you're all on board, I've Been Expecting You. It's a great title.
Essentially, it's the formula that he established in Life Through a Lens, which is basically a big volcanic personality that is absolutely evident on every single track, even if there are only really a few that are worthy of being standout singles. And within those few, there's always the power ballad, there's always the party one, and there's always the slightly more vulnerable one. So I think the second album reflects the first one in that respect.
I think Millennium, it is a different song from a lot of the other songs on the album. And he is sort of almost saying, I don't have to just do ballads, I can do other songs as well. And of course it was a big hit. And it's got those slightly tongue-in-cheek vocals again, the lyrics, you know, the lyrics that are going to make you smile, because he sings about things like live for liposuction and things like that. Who else would write those kind of lyrics? You know, there is nobody else that would put those words into essentially a pop song.
Live for liposuction and detox for your rent. Overdose at Christmas and give it up for Lent.
It's probably the party anthem equivalent to Let Me Entertain You off the second album. It's slightly more experimental in that he's prepared to sort of cover a Nancy Sinatra song that was made famous by a James Bond film. It definitely shows that Robbie Williams, if he hasn't got an ear for a blinding songcraft and you know, really, really innovative, groundbreaking music, then he is definitely shrewd enough to know precisely the best combination of music and pop culture to achieve a record that's going to be successful.
We always come too late. I have to think that we were born to hate. Get up and see the sarcasm in my eyes.
I think it is a tried and tested formula, but I think it's slightly more mature and it's slightly more calculated and deliberate as well. And it's especially important that he introduces his slightly more vulnerable side in the second album, which is going to become a theme of his career, really.
Tell me a story where we all change, and we live our lives together, but not as strange. I didn't lose my mind, it was my unforgivable.
I was really disappointed by No Regrets, because I think after Angels, that was such a huge single and a huge moment in Robbie's career, and for any Robbie fan, it was going to be so tough to follow that up. How does anybody do that? You know, you go to a Robbie concert and everybody's waiting for Angels. It's the biggest moment, and so whatever the song was going to be, even Millennium, which was a big one for him, or Let Me Entertain You, even they would have struggled, and they still do up against Angels. So No Regrets to me, I think a slightly dull offering, but only by comparison to Angels.
No Regrets is a strong compositional effort from Robbie Williams, and I think importantly it's the first that we see of his sort of unapologetically emotional side, and the first that we see of his slightly self-deprecating, I'm a bit of a tortured soul, but I can laugh at myself and cry at myself equally.
No Regrets is a song that's got so many different elements of what makes up Robbie Williams. It's got these sort of very tongue-in-cheek lyrics. I mean, you cannot listen to that song without just smiling a little bit. And it does seem to be, you know, I've got no regrets leaving Take That, I've got no regrets going solo, I'm doing all right, thank you very much. And it's just one of these songs that it just shows off so much of who Robbie Williams is and what his music is all about.
nearly all Robbie's songs are autobiographical to some degree, because he is the greatest subject matter that he knows, and his fellow songwriters know. Okay, my breath smells of 1,000 fags, and when I'm drunk I dance like my dad. Now that is just a fantastic line. He's won us straight away. Basically, he's a superstar, but immediately he's coming down to our level.
My breath smells of 1,000 fags. When I'm drunk, I dance like my dad. Started to smile a bit like him. Early morning when I wake up, I look like Kiss, but without the makeup.
And you know, because my life's a mess. And I'm trying to grow, so before I'm old, I'll confess. You think that I'm strong, you're wrong. So he's admitting to weaknesses there. Because, you know, even though he's a superstar, he's not without his faults. Life's too short to be afraid, so take a pill to numb the pain. You don't have to take the blame. I think that's a nod, basically, to his addictions to antidepressants, basically, to numb the pain of all the things he's feeling. But that's a sort of coming to terms with who I am song. So I don't think it gets much more autobiographical than that.
And you know, 'cause my life's a mess, and it's starting to show.
So that's just really basic building blocks of songwriting. So you've got the tonic, which is B flat, then you've got the second chord E flat major, which is a 4 chord, which again is sort of fairly straightforward. Back again, and back again. Then you move to 2 minor, then the 5th chord, and then 1. So essentially, that's all fairly straightforward.
I was her, she was me. We were one, we were free.
She's the One is another one of those ballads that Robbie does, and you know, ballads are always going to be popular, and obviously the topic of the song as well, She's the One, again, it's going to mean so many different things to so many different people. It is going to be one of these songs that, you know, women are going to like because they're going to think, oh, she's the one, she's talking about me, you know, somehow they're communicating through the song. But at the same time, it's a song that will apply to blokes as well.
If you take the 2 comparable ballads from Life Through a Lens and I've Been Expecting You, which is She's the One and Angels, they both start in the same way, which is with vocals and piano, and they build up and layers gradually get added in. Like the drums come in about a minute in to each. You hear the rest of the band come in, bass and guitar, and then by the 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes through the song, it's built up to a climax that's got a massive free-flowing string section in both songs, and above all of this is Robbie's voice soaring through it all. So yeah, that's the recipe for success for both of those ballads.
If there's somebody calling me on, she's the one, she's the one. If there's somebody calling me on, she's the one.
In the first album, what they were striving to do is create a sound for Robbie Williams, which is sort of Britpop, and then the second album, sort of post-Britpop, mainly guitar-led, incorporating a few samples and just being a little bit more mature and thinking about things a little bit more. In the third album, I think they just took that up a notch in terms of just making it slightly more, just distancing it a little bit from sort of guitar-driven Britpop sound.
Be with the floor show, kicking with your torso. Boys getting high and the girls even more so. Wave your hands if you're not with a man. Can I kick it?
Rock DJ was a bit of a break from all the ballads that Robbie was putting out. And it was a little bit rocky, not as rocky as the title would obviously imply, but it was something that was a little bit different. It was, again, one of these tongue-in-cheek, very Robbie sounds. And I think it was one of those to say, look, you know, I'm not turning into some sad old fart that's going to just play songs that your mum's going to listen to. I'm going to play songs that everybody wants to hear. And this is my offering to you.
I don't wanna rock DJ, but you're making me.
When you look at some of the Robbie songs, you can see where he might well have plagiarised cleverly little bits of other songs, and not unknowingly, quite deliberately, and that's fine. He would have paid them off anyway. But like, there's a Rock DJ, all that starting bit, the dun 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 dun, is an old Barry White song, but obviously the lyrics are his.
The song is quite quirky. I mean, it's based on just a one-note piano sample, which is the basis for the whole of the verse and chorus. And if the lyrics are nonsensical, then it's probably quite indicative that the only bit you can remember is the bit where he's talking about moving his body, which is exactly, you know, what the floor fillers are made of.
I don't wanna be sleazy, baby, just tease me, got no family plan.
The other song, of course, that was on Sing When You're Winning, which was the big hit, was the duet that Robbie did with Kylie Minogue, which was called Kids. And I mean, that I remember them doing that at the Brit Awards, and it was a great song, and it was an unusual partnership. You didn't really expect Kylie and Robbie to team up, but I guess it made a lot of sense because they were the two acts that were very big in the UK at the time, and you know, it was a great move. Of course, the fans of both will buy the single, so you know, in terms of that, it was a great move, it was a great song. It showed off, again, Robbie's vocal abilities.
There was a lot of chemistry between, well, sizzling chemistry between the two of them, which is just as well because the song is totally forgettable, really. It's just kind of a vivacious and vacuous exercise in hamming it up, really.
I've always thought that the funniest songs were the best, the humorous ones, and that can be doing Kids with Carly, has some brilliant lines, and it's really very, very funny, and the whole thing is like a big spoof from the start. Let Me Entertain You, again, was really good, doing the Kiss pastiche. I've always found the best thing about Robbie is the way he subverts himself while at the same time celebrating himself, and the best songs he has are the ones where he does that.
I still can't put my finger on why Robbie hasn't broken America. You know, and if I could, I'd be a very rich man, and I'd be currently his consultant for the American markets. But he's struggled for a number of reasons. I mean, everybody will say in the music business that if you're going to break America, you have to work damn hard. You know, you have to be out there for weeks and months on end, and you have to do the full range of radio stations and college stations, which are so important to the charts there. You have to be around, you have to get in people's consciousness, and you can't just carry your success from Britain with your eccentric, cheeky, chappy British type thing and expect the Americans to really go for that.
When they first launched him over there, the album they used to launch him was the second or third one down the line. So basically, everything Robbie was hating the kind of intrusion into his fame that he gets over here. He's writing all these anguished songs about how hard it was being Robbie Williams, how do I cope with the fame, how do I put up with this? And of course they hadn't heard of him, so all they got was this guy moaning. They said this British guy suddenly appeared, complaining about being chased down the street by paparazzi. They'd never heard of the guy.
When he did appear on American chat shows, I think the reaction was, who the hell is this guy? And who the hell does he think he is, coming over here and pretending he's already a star? That was the point. I don't think he'd earned their respect. Here in Britain, he'd earned our respect. He's been in a pop band. We've seen him go through all these trials and tribulations. But in America, they hadn't seen that. They're just this artist appears who is projecting this image of himself as a huge, magnificent star that we should all love. And I think their reaction was, sod off.
Please welcome Robbie Williams.
Of call me cynical, but I still think that Swing When You're Winning was an effort to actually try and break America by doing these big show-stopping tunes, by getting people like Nicole Kidman and Rupert Everett to do duets with you. It's not something that you would automatically do, but I suspect that was the reason that it was done. And I don't think it did Robbie any harm. There were some great songs that came out of that, and it really showed off his voice again. You know, it said, I'm not just a pop singer, look, I can do these show-stopping tunes, which, you know, they are quite difficult songs to sing because you've got to have a pretty strong voice. They're used to, you know, people being on stage with these amazingly powerful voices and doing them. Robbie pulls it off.
I've left Miss Jones, and we'll keep on meeting till we die, Miss Jones and I.
It was very popular, and not to be discounted that it coincided very, very well with Christmas release, and it was huge over Christmas. It was on he was on Parky all the time and on Radio 2. Either in person or just his radios are playing. He was on Bridget Jones, which is a massive, successful film as well. He was the soundtrack for that. But I think it was probably mainly an exercise in showing that he was this all-round entertainer who could do cabaret, who could do the American songbook. And throughout his entire career, he'd always said that he grew up in that tradition, singing Mac the Knife in a pub rather than you know, going to raves and stuff like that. I think he likes people to think he has this sort of wholesome musical education which has the American songbook at its core.
I think his dad probably had an influence on him there, you know, singing the old tunes that he'd grown up hearing his dad sing and perform around Stoke-on-Trent and stuff, and it was kind of a great tangent to go off at, because again that introduced him to a whole new audience, and there would have been people that are into the Rat Pack and the originals, you know, Frank Sinatra's and stuff, and really got into that Robbie album. I know people that got turned on to Robbie Williams or hadn't been until that Live at the Albert Hall came out, because they were just incredible sellouts. Beautiful backdrop, and you know, and he got up there and he in his dinner suit, and he took the audience by storm in a totally different way than he did Nebworth, and that really showed off his versatility. A really clever move that was, because then he's going down an even maturer route and appealing to an even maturer audience, and the more you can do that, the longer you're going to be around.
Even the old dears love Robbie Williams now for that, you know, and it introduced swing to the younger generation. And I see kids these days, as young as 19, 20, you know, doing all these swing stuff now. Karaoke, or doing the cabaret show, or singing in bars or theatres, and they're loving this kind of swing vibe, and why not? Because it's great music, you know, Frank Dino and Sammy.
I think after the whole Swing When You're Winning album and all the amazing TV personality things that he did, I think it was a bit of an anticlimax, because that was around about the time that he actually went into rehab. He was being treated for, I think it was a whole host of things. It was an alcohol addiction. I think there was some rumoured problems with cocaine and things like that. And he did, in a sense, use the rehab to his advantage, because out of it came the album Escapology, which I think is, you know, escapology is a means of escaping, and I think it was a means of escaping the rehab and the drug and drink problems that he had at that time.
It's not a good album, really, from any standpoint. And I think that there aren't enough new elements in Escapology for him to be able to do anything other than use his personality and his voice to drag the album to a close. Because of that, he falls into a sort of lame self-parody, and he just really falls back on that time and time again. And because we've already explored these themes with him and we've already heard him talk about it, and he's not really saying anything new, it just doesn't sound as interesting or as comical or as witty or as irreverent as it did when we first heard him talking about, you know, his slightly more self-deprecating side.
I don't really think Robbie had much choice other than to make the Escapology album a very personal I suppose, a form of exorcism, really, because his problems had been so much the focus in the public eye. It had been splashed all over the papers, all over the news. I think if he tried to ignore it and just come out with a lovey-dovey album, I think it would have been weird, and I think he probably would have been criticised for doing it. But I think because he poured his heart out and he said, you know, this is me and this is what I'm going to write about, and I'm going to write about these problems, I think in a way it almost gave him a bit of kudos for doing that, because they said, okay, well, you know, he's accepted that he's got these problems and that he's coming out with them and he's going to communicate. I just think if he'd brushed them under the carpet, I think he probably would have had more of a slating than he did for actually coming out with them.
He's had quite a tragic life, really, and I think his fans are so loyal to him out of almost sympathy, because, you know, every one of those girls in Nebworth Field, and probably a fair few of the lads there as well, probably just wanted to go up and give him a hug. They probably just see him as being this vulnerable, insecure chap who tries to relate to them and talk to them through his songs, well, because he can't pick each one out and have a chat with them over a Starbucks, can he? So, you know, he reaches out with these songs, and again, it just drives this pathos back from his fans towards him. And, you know, he's just one of those people that you can buy into what he's got to say about himself. Because for anybody else, you know, if it was anyone else doing it, be like, what? I'm so uninterested. I don't want to know about your life. But there's this real curiosity that everybody has about Robbie.
Very good. There's a hole in my soul. You can see it in my face. It's a real big place.
Feel and Come Undone, they were sort of, they were kind of middle of the road songs, really. They didn't have as much impact as the sort of the big Robbie with his full band, or the big Robbie with his Let Me Entertain You. They didn't have a huge impact like that, but they were good songs in their own right. They were decent pop songs, and I think that they kept him plodding quite merrily along, and they kept him in the public focus. You know, people weren't forgetting who Robbie was, and I think that's one of the dangers that often bands have. You know, if they've been away from the music industry for a set period of time, they end up just releasing a kind of a half album just to let people know that they're there. And I think in a way, Escapology is that album for Robbie.
There's some interesting lines in Come Undone. They're selling razor blades and mirrors in the street. Pray that when I'm coming down, you'll be asleep. If I ever hurt you, your revenge will be so sweet, because I'm scum and I'm your son.
If I ever hurt you, your revenge will be so sweet, because I'm scum, but I'm your son.
Basically, I think Come Undone is about the sport of watching celebrities unravel themselves. And he, in Britain, is our greatest living example of a celebrity unravelling himself before us and trying to put everything back together. But the great thing about Robbie is it's all out there in his songs. And it's all part of who he is, it's all part of the entertainment. But it's still a really confusing thing for him.
His lyrics have just become more knowing as it's gone on. They've become better, they've been a lot sharper written, they've become more knowing, more self-deprecating. I mean, there's some fantastic lines in Robbie Williams songs, lines that if somebody like Tom York were to sing them in a Radiohead song, you'd have critics carrying him shoulder high, saying what a fantastic genius this man is. But I think he does far more than he gets credit for in terms of singing and talking about what it is to be an artist in the position that he's in.
It was the last album that Robbie actually worked with Guy Chambers on, and it was more of a sort of a grown-up and mature sounding album, and I think it was a kind of almost like a sort of a crossroads point where he was just reaching to the end of one road and he was ready to see where that road was going to take him next, which was going to be his next branch off point.
I'm not completely convinced by Robbie's new songwriting partner, Stephen Duffy, who was better known in the 80s as Stephen Tintin Duffy. Interesting figure. He was an original member of Duran Duran. He was in Duran right at the start before they took off. Then he had one or two kind of quite fey, left-field singer-songwriter hits in the 80s. Then he kind of vanished for a long time, then reappeared as Robbie Williams' co-songwriter. And I'm not quite sure that he has... Guy Chambers, the previous guy, is really quite a good classicist songwriter. He does big hooks, big melodies. He produces things like Angels, Millennium, Kids, all the big hits that, you know, that made Robbie what he is. And I'm not sure so far that Stephen Duffy's produced one of those.
Intensive care is a new direction, which is, you've got to give that some credit, because I think he was trying to do that with Escapology, but just failed to. Whereas at least Intensive Care is being taken into in a new direction with Stephen Duffy. I think if it's going to bear fruit, that relationship is going to bear fruit, then Stephen Duffy needs to write stronger material, but not, I mean, he's not way off the pace at the moment. I think they both just need to up their game slightly, think about what they're doing, but there's no reason why they can't have a good singer-songwriter relationship together.
Again, Robbie's defied expectations of what you expect of him. You know, he's doing these songs and, like, you think, what's he doing? You know, it's really different. And after a couple of listens, it's really great. You appreciate it. I thought, this is the whole thing about Robbie Williams. You can't bag him in one corner of music. You know,
Robbie has this ability to write songs, definitely from the last two albums. You know, to release songs that, when you first hear them, you think, it's all over for Robbie Williams, this is terrible. But then once you've heard them a few times, you just think, this is great. I mean, Rock DJ was like that the first time I heard it, and Radio was like that. The first time I heard those songs, I just thought, this is terrible. It really is just rank, horrible stuff. And the recent single, Tripping, the first time I heard that, I thought it was terrible, but I really, really love it now.
One of the other things that Robbie has consistently had throughout his career is a very British approach, and that Tripping is kind of, it harks back to sort of 80s, 90s British ska. It kind of sounds like Madness in a way. So yeah, I think that this record has definitely got a different personality to it, and a more identifiably new personality, but I think it just needs to be taken up a level to be regarded in the same breath as his output with Guy Chambers.
I know it's coming, there's gonna be violence. I've taken as much as I'm willing to take. Why do you think we should suffer in silence? The heart is broken, there's nothing to.
Stephen Duffy and Robbie Williams obviously wrote the song Radio, which is like 80s pop with synthesizer sound, etc, etc. And there's a song on the album called Tripping, which is the same kind of vibe as well. But that's not to say that all the songs on the album Intensive Care are in that genre, because again, they're very different. You've got your beautiful ballads and your beautiful kick-ass, in-your-face tunes.
Intensive Care, I'm not totally impressed, but the album comes out and then he announces dates for his tour. One Wembley Stadium date next September, suddenly goes to 2 dates, sells them out, 3, then 5, sells them all in half an hour. That is people buying into Robbie as an institution, not a mediocre album like Intensive Care. So the songs on there like Tripping, yeah, it's a bit of a grower. There's not a lot. I'd say it's a fairly average album, but by a legendary superstar, you know. So that's Robbie all over, really.
Why do you say that there's gonna be violence? I've taken as much as I'm willing to.
I want to see what he does next with this Stephen Duffy partnership, whether he will continue with that, whether he will decide to get a new songwriting partner. That will be interesting to see what happens there. But it's like if the songs dry up tomorrow, I mean, he's got a career as a chat show host ahead of him, or as a movie star or something. He's just got so much of a personality. I cannot believe that Robbie Williams would be allowed to, or be happy with, just doing nothing. Right now, I think the thing that holds him back from genuinely being lauded as a credible star is people that are irritated by him, by his egotisticalness and by his navel-gazing, and maybe a bit by his self-loathing and his lifestyle and always rubbing our noses in it. I think people are, that stops us from really giving him the respect that he deserves.
Thank you. Do they know the places where we go when we're grey and old? 'Cause I've been,
I don't think we'll get sick of Robbie as long as he says interesting, as long as he says an interesting figure who engages us and who we're quite involved in. If he finds this mystical girl that he keeps talking about and settles down and gets married and has a kid and is making chubby dull albums about domesticity, the way that a few people before have done, then we could get bored of him. But as long as he's kind of living on the edge the way that he is. And I think if he starts producing some really, really great songs again, as compared to just the kind of middling fiddles he's done lately, some really interesting, great songs again, I think there's still a hunger there for him. I don't see it being over for quite a while yet.
love and affection, whether I'm right or wrong, and down the waterfall, wherever it may take me, I know that life won't break me when I come to call.
His best song, in my opinion, is Angels. I know it's a cliche, but the way it's put together musically, the lyrics, it's very powerful.
It is the song. It's a song that stands. It's going to stand the test of time. It's a song that, in years to come, everybody is going to associate Robbie Williams with Angels.
And through it all, she offers me protection, a lot of love and affection, whether I'm right or wrong.
The one thing that he will always have is star quality, because over the last 10 years he's been by far and away the standout male in terms of sales and adulation and longevity.
He is one of the big British artists. He really is a star.
I'm loving angels instead. Thank you and good night. Me with a force show, kicking with your torso. Boys getting high and the girls even more so. Wave your hands if you're not with the man. Can I kick it? Yes, you can. I got, you got, soul. We got everybody. I got the gift, gonna stick it in the gun. It's time to move your body.